Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Zellmer from Faces of TBI, and welcome back to the Brain Health Online Summit Training Series. I am a TBI survivor from a fall on the ice in February of 2014, and myself, along with Dr. Jeremy Shmuel at Minnesota Functional Neurology, we saw a need in the brain injury community for more training and education on alternative healthcare methods and modalities for those suffering from the lingering effects of a brain injury. So our goal with this summit is to help educate and bring awareness to this invisible injury that affects 2.8 million Americans each year and is the leading cause of death and disability in the world. So each day you're going to hear from 4 to 5 speakers who are going to share their experience either working with brain injury patients or their own real life experience of living with a brain injury. Today I'm here with Dan Sexton. Dan played for Bowling Green State University from 2007 to 2009, playing 76 games and recording 24 goals and 60 points in his NCAA career. Sexton was an undrafted free agent and left college when he was signed by the Anaheim Ducks in April of 2009. He began playing for the Russian KHL League in 2014 and was selected for the All-Star team in 2017. After a concussion, his 2014 and 15 seasons were difficult for him, missing 35 games. He was getting headaches, along with a general feeling of disorientation, and worst of all, had developed some mild dysautonomia. As a professional hockey player, that meant he couldn't do what he enjoyed most: skating, working out, and general activities for an active lifestyle. It completely controlled his thoughts, which led to anxiety, wondering if he'd ever feel normal again. He then found Dr. Jeremy Shmuel at Minnesota Functional Neurology, who helped him feel better and get back on the ice. So welcome, Dan. We're so glad to have you here, part of our summit.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're real excited to have you. And you know, your sentence in your bio about wondering if you'd ever feel normal again, I think so many people watching this can relate to that statement and how that feeling of like, am I ever going to feel better? And it just leads to this anxiety, and that leads to like a vicious cycle.
Totally. I think that's the vicious cycle would be what is how I would describe it, where you kind of are your own worst enemy when you you're only, you become very selfish. You become really only concerned about your own health. You're not really concerned about other things that are going on in your day-to-day life. It's because when you feel the way you do, as you know, like it kind of takes over. And obviously I think that the anxiety comes on almost naturally, because anything that if it were to happen, whether it's this or something else, when you're worried about something that much, anxiety is going to have an effect. And I've never been an anxious person. Mm-hmm. And really it kind of just hit me where I'm like, hey, I might need to get some help for this part of it. And I did. And it did help, but it really is tough, because as a hockey player, it's your livelihood. You don't know if you're going to be finished. You never expect to be finished playing at 28, 29 years old. Yeah. So it was really scary. And you wake up each day and you realize you still feel the same, and that's like the worst feeling.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know about you, but in the beginning I was told, oh, you should feel better in like 4 to 6 weeks. And then I didn't feel any better. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, oh, maybe a couple months. And
oh man,
like what?
Yeah, it's wild the way that they get. You can kind of be told something just to kind of get you out the door, and then they'll deal with you in 6 weeks when you don't feel any better, and they just kind of hope that you give up trying or give up coming in, and maybe you'll just like get lucky, or because it's such an unpredictable thing. And a lot of the doctors truly are incapable of handling it, even if they have like every degree in the world. If they don't really study, I think I basically went through every doctor you can imagine, and I kind of just realized that a lot of them, I think I now know more than probably a lot of them about how to deal with the concussion, probably 10 times over, and I'm sure you do too.
That's how I feel too. Yeah. And I think a lot of people watching can relate to that too.
Totally. So I think the best thing for me was just getting lucky that I went to enough people that led me to enough other people. Like, hey, I can't help you, but maybe this guy can, or this I can't, but maybe this guy can. And finally that kind of led to the last guy, which was Dr. Shmuel. And that was where I felt like I'd finally, came to like the right place.
Yeah. I know when I first went in to see him, I was 2.5 years past my injury.
Wow.
And I had kept telling doctors, I think it's my eyes that are affecting my balance and my dizziness. No, that can't be. It's where to go. And
Yeah.
the first thing he said to me is, it's your eyes aren't working right. And
Yeah,
yes.
that's the same for me, was having kind of a different approach, something different, not hearing the same words, kind of spewed into your face, and you being, kind of, not being told that you're making it up, but more like, like you said, if you just keep resting or keep doing this, it'll go away. And that's why when I see other guys that go through it, hockey guys, it happens every season with guys.
Right.
I always try to help them. And I've gone as far as to send, videos in of guys from Russia into Dr. Shmuel, and he can kind of see just on FaceTime what's going on, which is insane, because, it's just, it really is kind of a niche thing where there's only one person where I would go, because it's I don't even blame the other doctors for not knowing, because I think it's such a hard thing to know about. And so I don't even blame them. I just think it's a really unfortunate thing in general for people going through it, that if they don't have the right person.
I know. I wish, so there's Jeremy, and there's I think 400 of him.
Yep.
Can we clone you guys?
Yeah, I know. And even when I went to I went to the Mayo Clinic, one of the best hospitals in the world, spent a ton of money, and they're like, you're fine. It was basically they did 5 MRIs, they did the dysautonomia testing, and they were like, everything's fine. And that's, tons of money later, you're like, oh, I literally learned nothing. And unfortunately, I almost regret going there. It gave me some it gave me some clearness of mind to know that on a scan it looked okay, but it didn't make me feel any physically better. But that was kind of right when I was starting to see Dr. Shmuel too, and he told me that was going to happen, and he was right, but I wanted to do it anyways. And but yeah, looking back, that was really the functional side of it was what I needed the most.
And here you are, you're a professional athlete.
Mm-hmm.
And, you are probably in one of the most physically fit physiques of, the average population, and you're struggling, and doctors aren't helping you.
Yeah.
So when you found Jeremy, what did you guys, what was your plan of attack? What did he have you start doing?
For me, the first time I went in there was basically, I went in there, he did the full 2-hour exam or so, and it was good. He came in, he kind of told me what you said, this is what's going on. You might have some stuff going on back in your shoulder and your neck, but at the most it's your optokinetics, I think is what it was. When you run, your eyes need to adjust for when your head goes up, your eyes need to come down so that your plane looks flat. Well, when I would do that, I would start to feel really bad, because they weren't working correctly.
Right.
So once I got those better, where your eyes are moving the way they should, when you're running, when you're, let's say, doing a squat, every time you squat down, your eyes. So I would start feeling terrible, but it wasn't, and I would do a workout, and 30 minutes after my workout, my feet would start to feel numb, and my head would get a headache, and I couldn't concentrate. It was a terrible feeling. And I would push it a couple times, and then I'm like, you know what, I can't work out anymore. And last summer, I barely worked out until I finally saw Dr. Shmuel, and then we slowly kind of redid it. But not being able to work out as a hockey player as the season's approaching is the worst feeling. Yeah. And it was tough, and I barely got ready in time for the season. And then, I didn't have barely one problem with it the whole year. And I was pretty convinced that I wouldn't have been able to play, period, had I not found him, just at the right time.
So what were some of the exercises he did with you to help with the balance and the vestibular system?
We did, initially we did the opti drum, which is the lines going across on a phone. And then you would maybe have your thumb or a pencil go across the opposite way. So that would be one. So you'd kind of have the lines going this way, and you move your pencil this way, and that would kind of help your eyes. It's almost like your eyes want to go one way, but then you have to follow them, and you kind of have to ignore the background. I think it's kind of the idea is you have to just And then I did the 5 dots, which I think a lot of people know about, where you kind of you're shaking your head or you're nodding it yes, and you are moving around, moving your hands like this, just to tell your body where your hands and your feet are. And you don't look great doing it when you're walking around. Like, people could laugh at you, but I did it when you're, as you know, when you're feeling the way that we were, you'll pretty much do anything.
Yeah.
And once I saw improvements, it was all the more easier to continue to do it. And I also did one other thing. It's like the opti-drum, where you would just let your natural eye reflex kind of go across the screen, and you would follow each black line, and you just almost let your eyes do it. They're supposed to do it. So if mine weren't doing it, I kind of had to make them do it, and then they started doing it on their own. And that was, again, where you started to feel your brain get better, and some balance drills for, I believe, your cerebellum, where the better you can balance, the healthier your cerebellum is. And I slowly just got better at it throughout the season. I would do them like twice a day, maybe 3 times a day. And then once you kind of got it, I would back off of it a little bit. But every now and then I like to do it again. And I'll probably start to do them again here soon, just to make sure that everything's still working correctly.
And I don't know, did you find too, like, once you started doing those exercises with your eyes, and like you realized how, like, they're such simple exercises, and you realized how, like, out of whack they were, like my eyes weren't working together.
Yeah.
And once you get them working together, it's like,
when your new normal is like not good, I think your brain starts to think that that's normal, and you might not even notice it. Like, people living a day-to-day life might not even realize it. But if I'm playing hockey, I could maybe fall down or miss a step, and I'm like, why did that happen? You can't really explain it, but you're like, oh, but it really is because of that. And so once I actually started working on those things, my vision on the ice and other things like that may have gotten even better than where they were before the injury. And that's what I like to think of it as, like, maybe I'm getting even better than what I would have been if I never would have had a concussion, So obviously, yes, you still have your moments where you are reminded that you have had one, and you've had multiple, like for me. And but at the same time, I'm trying to learn from that and maybe get those parts of my brain even better, so that, I'm almost improving more than I would have had I just taken my eyes for granted, or wore out my balance and things like that for granted. You can always improve on those things, concussion or no concussion.
Yeah. And, I think these exercises, like you said, you look kind of silly doing your figure. And, you do the legs with it too. And, you look a little silly doing it, but like, it's something, if you kind of feel a little like shaken up during a game or something, you can go on the sideline and you can do those.
Yeah. Oh man, I do.
It's so quick. Like, it's like,
Yeah, I do it on the ice sometimes. If I take a hard hit, I'll like make sure that my eyes are still working properly on the bench, and I don't care what it really looks like. I don't think anyone even notices that I'm doing it, but I do it. There's some breathing things that I can do, like, just to make sure everything's working the right way. And I've just gained so many, I guess, assets that I can do to kind of combat the feelings, or combat, like, if I am starting to feel dysautonomic, I can do certain exercises that me and Dr. Shmuel have talked about. And then just mentally, your anxiety kind of goes away, because you're doing the right things to try to make it better. And sometimes you can be your own worst enemy, where like your anxiety is just there because you're making it be there. Your mind's a powerful thing. So when I'm doing the right things, and I just I'm kinder to myself, I'm like, okay, this is a chance to like test out because even in the summer, I'll have times where I'll do a hard workout and I'll feel kind of cruddy the next, like, for the few hours. And I'm like, all right, this is a chance to kind of learn that it's not going to be like this for the next week. I can get over this, and then you feel better. But it's an ongoing thing, and it's something that I definitely have a lot of passion for, just because when you go through it for a year or two and no one really understands, it's something that it's kind of I don't think you'll ever forget about,
Right. And you said something earlier. You said when you start feeling dysautonomic, what does that feel like? How would you describe that?
I would say palms get a little bit sweaty for me. I'd say you get a little bit of tension, tiny bit of tension in your head for me. And I would say, you kind of feel just a little bit like, a little bit just out of disoriented, just a touch, like just a little bit, to where it's enough to where you just feel a little bit off. It's almost like a feeling of being dehydrated, something like that, where you're just like, and sometimes it is because you are dehydrated. So there's multiple reasons why it could happen. But for me, it's like, I need to kind of do some of these eye exercises, drink a lot of water, make sure I'm being really healthy and getting plenty of sleep. And then it goes away in due time. But it's a feeling, when it was at its worst, it was like, if I did 3 squats, just body weight squats, I would feel like my heart rate would kind of start racing. And that was the hardest thing for me, was my heart rate had a really weird pattern to it. Not beats wise, but just like, it would go up to like 90 and then it just like wouldn't come down, it would just stay up there for a few minutes, and it's not supposed to be like that.
Right.
So that's what got me the most worried out of the whole ordeal, was I was like, something's wrong, where like things aren't being passed along the correct way. And then once I started doing things with Shmuel and doing some of the nutritional stuff, all that kind of came. It was all because of my adrenal glands, and those all settled back down to where they should be, and it made all the difference for me. And I never even knew something like that could even happen from a head.
Right. When early on, my heart rate would just like skyrocket. You could just feel it. Right.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I went to just my regular doctor, and I was like, I think we need to like check out my heart. Am I having a heart attack or what?
Yeah.
So they hooked me up to the EKG.
Yep.
And they're like, nope, your heart's fine. I'm like, my
heart
rate's at like 110.
Yeah. And everyone has different rates of heart rate. So some people's natural heart rate is high, and they don't know what yours personal one is. That it's not supposed to be like that. And for me, that's kind of how it was I knew something was wrong, but I really couldn't get a straight answer. And then I was wearing like a heart thing around all the time with a watch that told me what my heart rate was. That just got me thinking about it way too much. And then I was just like, I was putting myself into a mental pretzel.
Yep. I was in the same boat.
Yeah. So you feel pretty helpless, and you're kind of doing anything to get it better, but really you're almost just making it worse until you get on the right ideas from the right person.
And like you said, I didn't know that the heart could be affected by a brain injury. No. I mean, it makes sense once you
and I would tell people about it, and they'd be like, what? Like, they just like couldn't believe it. And I was like, I'm sure I sounded like silly even explaining it to people that had no chance of understanding. So it's like, you almost can't tell anyone except for maybe a couple people that could relate, I guess.
Do you find that heat bothers you? Does that?
Yeah, I mean, it's really hot here in Florida, and it definitely makes it much easier for your body to kind of get, like, I could go outside and I'm like sweating right away, and I've never been that's never really been me. So that could be something that I'm starting to realize could be a thing, but I guess I don't know 100% whether or not that is an effect, but it definitely could be, because I mean, if I start even thinking about some of those things that I was going through, like, I'll get sweaty just thinking about it.
Yep.
Like, even right now, I can feel like my hands are like wet.
Yep. I know when sometimes when people ask me lots of questions, it kind of makes me like
Exactly, which is why I like didn't want to think about it too much before we talked, but at the same time,
but you're making it
good to talk
real.
about it too.
Yeah, you're making it really real.
Yeah. And there's ways to cope with it that way.
To what you're talking about right now. Yeah,
definitely. And I mean, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, what would you recommend to a young athlete? Maybe they've had a concussion. Maybe they don't know if they've had a concussion. What would you recommend to them or their parents? That they just don't feel right. What would you recommend to the child or the parent?
I would recommend that, because there really is no way of, like, when you're a young kid and your parents, might assume that you are not faking it, but assume that it's not as bad as you're saying it is. That's such a tough situation. I feel when I was younger, I never remember a time where I had to go through that, where like I thought I had a concussion. Like, they really came on for me later in life, when I was old enough to kind of speak for myself and speak up and be my own, like, look out for myself more and stand up for myself about it. But if I'm a young kid and you have that going on, I'd say you have to just put your foot down. You have to say, like, this is exactly what's happening. This is how I feel. And to be honest, I would go see someone like a Dr. Shmuel right as soon as you'd be like, hey, like it's so hard for a young kid to know who to go see though, right? Like you can't. So if without that, without having that, I guess at their fingertips, like I'd say to just really stand up for themselves and say, hey, I can't play. I know I look fine. I know that I probably could go out there and play and score a goal or score a touchdown because I probably could, because, you know, but at the same time, I'm putting myself in a ton of danger. I'm putting myself in harm's way. And at that age, like, I just know how important it is to not to avoid getting like second hits and getting you know, when you already have one, you need to make a full recovery because your brain is still developing. And it's just, my instant reaction would be that I just feel really bad because I know it happens all the time. And I know that kids are going out there way too early. But I think it's great that there's things like this that are maybe telling people like that you need to relax. You need to just relax. It's not that important that you're going to push a 14-year-old kid out there in a physical sport, you know, and get hit again and then have his career be over before it even gets started. Take 2 weeks off and I guess just try to almost learn about it, as they should just be teaching about it as much as they can before it happens to like all the kids that are playing hockey, lacrosse, football, all those sports, even baseball or soccer. Like it happens all the time. It's just sad. I don't really know the right answer.
You know, and I hear way too often that the coach or the trainer will be like, well, do you feel like you can keep playing? You know, like,
of course, the kid, I would always say yes.
Concussed person.
Yeah.
They can't make that decision.
Yeah.
I feel like a message to the parents is really like, if you think your kid took a hard hit, at least pull them for the rest of the
I mean, they do that now. They do that now in like the NHL, and like if they see a guy take a hard hit, they force him to go down and away from the game for a while and check him out. So if they're doing that at that level, you have to do it at the younger level. It's even more important because kids are that much more like, they don't really know what their body feels like. Like when I was that age, I didn't know what to put in my body. I didn't know what I needed, what I didn't need. So they might have a concussion. They don't even know it because they're not that in touch with like their body, if that makes sense. They don't know that they even have it, but they're falling all over the field. They think it's normal. They're just having an off day because sometimes it isn't a headache and it's not you're puking. You're not like doing all it's really just like something little that could turn into something big if you let it keep going.
You know, and in your situation, did you know you had a concussion at this time, or was it just you suspected?
There were plenty of times where not plenty of times, there out of maybe the 3 or 4 that I had, there were probably 2 of the times where like I didn't want to believe it because it wasn't that bad, or I felt it 3 days later. So in those 3 days I was practicing or I was playing and I was feeling off, but I didn't know that I had one. I didn't know that I should take time off. And so I've played while having it. So I know what it's like and how scary it is. And I've played multiple games where I'm like, if I get hit hard, I'm going to be in big trouble. And thank God I avoided it. But if it had, I probably played really poorly because of it too. So you're no good to your team by playing with that fear. And you're also no good you're not treating yourself very well if you're playing with that. And places, I would say that's why I can talk from experience. Like I've been through it both sides where I've said, no, I can't play. And I stood up for myself, and times where I said, you know what, I'll try. And then I'm in the national anthem and I like know that I'm not going to make it to the game. So that's pretty scary, especially being over in Russia where like they don't even know what concussion means over there. So I really have to stand up for myself in that situation.
I bet you're the team advocate.
Oh yeah, I am. So when guys have one now, they like come to me and not our doctor. Because our doctors over there don't even know. Like if you think a general doctor here doesn't know what a concussion is, like over there, it's like they literally would try to give you like just a few pills and like hope that you just keep playing. Like they have no idea. So thank goodness. I've been on my team for 4 or 5 years. I have the power to say I can't play, but other guys don't have that kind of power. They don't have that ability to do that, and they end up playing. And then I've seen it happen on my own team. Guys with concussions go on and play terribly. They get a different injury or they get something else happen, and then they're out for 2 months instead of just a week or 2. If they would have just taken off a week or 2 and been smart about it, it turns into a whole year. where they're like not themselves, and they have a terrible season because of it. So you're really doing yourself a favor by not going out there playing at 60%, you know?
Yeah. And, and I think that's where a lot of those secondary injuries come from, is because you're not, you might feel cognitively fine. You might not have a headache, but your balance is still really off. And
It's always something, like there's something off.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it's not usually a pounding headache or you're puking like you see on TV if someone gets a concussion. Like it wasn't like that for me. For me, it was just my gaze stability wasn't there. I wasn't able to look at a spot and hold my eyes on that spot. And that was the most frustrating thing for me. I'd be on a plane. I'd be like, I can't even look at that for more than 4 seconds without my eyes kind of doing a little like, a little like circle, or a little bit like just moving off of it, getting distracted easily. So once I stabilized that, other things started to come together, and it's like, it can fall apart really quickly, but then once you piece it together, it can kind of come together quickly too. It doesn't always come out in symptoms that you read about. It's sometimes, or that are the most obvious, that, I can't play because I'm throwing up because I can't, I'm so dizzy. That was never for me. I never blacked out. I never got knocked out cold, but I definitely had the week, 2 weeks, sometimes 1.5 months where I just woke up the same every day, feeling like hungover almost.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly what it felt like. It felt like a 24/7 hangover.
Yep. So it's not always obvious, and that's where it gets scary, where like it's hard to say that you have one or that you don't, because a normal team trainer could be like, well, your balance is fine, you don't have a headache, but maybe it's something else. Maybe it's like your gait stability is off, or maybe your balance usually is a very good telltale sign, but a lot of the other things could be fine because everyone's brain is different. Everyone kind of copes with it differently, but everyone's kind of, you almost want your body to respond in a way that makes you know that you're not okay.
So what do you do now to maintain your brain health, in the off season and all year round?
Yeah, I do. I just take supplements. So I take adaptocrine, two pills a day for either 2 or 3 times a day. So it's 4 to 6 pills a day of that. And then with that, I take Proglyso, which just helps level your blood sugar levels. Because when your blood sugar spikes or it goes down, I think that can have an effect on your brain as well. So this kind of keeps those blood sugar levels like good. And then I take adaptocrine, which is or adrenochrome. You rub it in. It's like a cream on your wrist or on your belly, and it kind of tells your body, okay, it's time for you to not be on high alert. You don't need to be of this adrenally state. And even when I mostly wake up feeling fine, but I take it anyways, just because, that's what I know I need to do to maintain how I felt the last year, as opposed to the time before that when I didn't feel very good. Before I work out or skate, I'll take nitric balance. It's just a spoonful to like a really small amount. And that just helps blood flow go into your head and your hands and your feet and through the right passageways of where it needs to go, where it's supposed to go. And that's helped. And then the turmeric is like a little orange liquid that I'll take that really helps anti-inflammation, which is great for your brain and great for your body in general.
Yeah, I really like that Tomorrow.
Yeah, Tomorrow, yeah.
I definitely noticed. Yeah.
Yep, it's great stuff. I mean, I feel better when I have it. I think the whole idea with concussions, you don't want to have that inflammation in your brain where your brain's on fire and it's just like you can feel it. And that Tomorrow and eating the right way and exercise and things like that all kind of help that cause. And so that's kind of what I try to do, just live a healthy lifestyle, healthier than I did in the past. I've read books on it that Dr. Shmuel's given me that have really taught me a lot on like nutrition and things like that. I don't always follow it because sometimes I don't want to, but I'm lucky now where I like to eat, my occasional ice cream and things like that, and I can do that now because I think I've taken the right steps in general to get back my health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, nutrition's a huge factor in recovery. And one thing you mentioned, it was quite a while ago, but you did talk about staying hydrated.
Yeah.
And water is huge. I mean, your
Definitely.
brain is made up of water. Got it right there.
Yeah, it's hot here. Like I can never drink enough water in Florida, but you're right. Like you get that dehydration feeling, and that sometimes brings on some of the symptoms. And it's not bad. It's not like it's not like I go all the way backwards, but you can feel it start to come on. You're like, okay, maybe I need to go drink some more water. And it does seem to help a lot for me.
Yeah. I have days where I'll start kind of just feeling like fuzzy, and I'll be like, oh gosh, I don't know that I've drank enough water today.
Yeah.
So I'll go and just chug a thing of water. And I mean, it helps pretty quickly.
Yeah, it does. It's good. I mean, I'm glad you say that because I think it helps too.
Yeah. So I think that's a key point for people is remember to
Mhm.
keep hydrated. And I know, some people struggle with not being able to remember to drink water, right?
Totally. I
I
mean,
don't
you
know
have
if
to
you
have
have
that
a lot of
reminder
the same
sometimes.
problem.
Sometimes you just have to do whatever you can to get a reminder because I was talking to a guy yesterday and he's like, we never drink enough water being in Florida. Like we got to be drinking it
Yeah.
all the time. And then I was like, oh yeah, you're right. And I've been trying to start, you almost need those reminders once every couple of weeks to be like, I'm
Mhm.
probably not doing good enough in that category.
Yeah. And there are some apps for that to help you remember to drink water.
Yeah, exactly. There's an app for everything. I'm sure there's a reminder.
There is.
Yeah. No, I might need to, it might come to that for me, but for right now, I just try to make sure I'm drinking, like always have it around me, not drinking soda. I'll drink water
Yeah.
instead, even for breakfast, just have water instead of like a sugary
Yep.
juice or something, it's just water's so good. And so yeah, I'm on board with you there for sure.
Yeah. I'm water or coffee. Those are my two.
Yep. Yeah. Coffee to wake up sometimes for sure. Definitely can handle that.
Well, Dan, is there anything else that you wanted to share? Any final thoughts of wisdom for our listeners?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just if you have the support system around, like people that are kind of supporting you, and you have, I mean, everyone has that desire to get better, and not everyone has like maybe the time or the money to put into it to get better. Um, Everyone's kind of, I mean, if you work in a job, and I mean, some of these places are, they're not, I guess for me it's like just do what you can to get better, and while you're getting better, don't be too hard on yourself. Don't like get mad at yourself for feeling the same way in the morning. Like be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
Take it on as like a challenge that you can prove to yourself that you can get over, instead of something where I'm never going to get better, this is never going to go away. Just try to look at it in a certain light to where it's like a new challenge that you can take on, and once you get over it, it's going to feel great, and you're going to have that accomplishment under your belt that you can use for future reference. And it's easy to say because I kind of went through it and came out the other side okay, but who's to say that I won't go back to there somewhere? And if I do, then I want to know that I want to practice what I preach when I say, like, be kind to yourself, and give yourself, if even if everyone else can't understand why, just realize there's other people out there that know. And that's why I think it's great what you're doing, because you can watch something like this and be like reminded before you go to bed or when you wake up in the morning that tons of people are doing it, not just you, just because you don't know a group of a friend or a family member that's going through it. There is tons of people that are.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I fell, I had never really known anyone
Yeah,
a major concussion or a brain
totally.
injury. Like I didn't even
Yeah,
know that
yeah,
term.
yeah, but kind of, yep, me
And
too.
it was very isolating. And people were,
Very.
people were like, it's just a concussion. Like, what's the big deal? Get over it.
Yeah, I know. And those same people for me are the people that call me because they just got one and they're like, why do I
Yeah.
feel like this? And I'm like, oh, a year ago you were saying I was nuts. And that's, you never, and I do everything I can to help them because it
Yeah.
is such an isolating and terrible feeling. And there's only certain people that know what to do. And I think a lot of them are on this video, which is fantastic.
Yeah. And, I'm so thankful that you are there, with your teammates. You're able to help
Mhm.
guide them.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Especially like you said, with the Russian league, they don't even know what concussions are.
yeah, it's on a whole new level.
Yeah.
It's even worse than it is here, and they're probably 50 years from even figuring it out. And luckily, the USA's with people like yourself and Dr. Shmuel trying to get the awareness out there. Like major sports leagues are saying that are trying to do better about it. It's hard, but they're trying to do better and trying to. No one's like calling a guy a wuss for not padding out. Like guys get how bad it is, and that's a huge step up from like 8 years ago or 20 years ago when if you sat out with one, you were just being soft, and it's not like that
Yeah.
anymore,
Yep.
which
Yep.
is
I
great.
agree. I think
Yep.
there's a much greater awareness building,
It's
and
definitely, it's going in the right direction, which is all you can ask. And the faster it gets there, the better. And, it takes stuff like this to kind of get the word out.
yeah. And, and that's our goal with the summit is to try and help bridge that gap.
Yeah.
Like you said, a lot of traditional doctors they don't understand brain injury.
No.
And And we don't fault them because they don't get the training in it.
Yeah, it's
same
true.
way someone like Jeremy does. You know, he has 3 years of schooling just around the nervous system.
Totally.
So yeah, so that's, you know, that's what we're here. We're trying to really build that awareness that there is help out there. And I mean, look at people like you and me. We've come great strides.
Definitely.
I was 2.5 years out. I don't know how far you were out. Did you say?
Yeah, about 2 years.
About 2 years. Yeah. So, you know, we weren't like brand new to it. We were a year or two out, and we still were able to get help. So
definitely.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Really great. And thank you everyone for watching. And just remember, you're not alone in brain injury. And I hope that you all are enjoying the summit. And just remember, you can always purchase the recordings if you're not able to catch them all when they're live. And the proceeds go to the Brain Injury Association of America. So thank you, everyone, and I'll see you next time.